During the Ulster cycle of Celtic mythology, the warrior known as Fergus MacRoich serves as leader of the Knights of the Red Branch, a military order in direct service of Ulster's king. In this role, he trains many young warriors into full-fledged knights, as well as fights to protect the kingdom from its enemy, Connacht. He is part of Ulster royalty, the son of Ross the Red and Roy, and half-brother to Fachna, Ulster's current king. Thus, when Fachna dies, Fergus inherits the kingship. However, more so than an honorable knight, he is a fighter and a womanizer, wanting very much to marry his brother's widow, Nessa. The two negotiate and come to the agreement that Nessa will marry Fergus under the condition that he let her son, Crohor mac Nessa, rule the kingdom for a year before Fergus takes over. Well, Crohor spends that entire year ruling Ulster with great talent and wisdom, such that Ulster's people demand he remain at the throne. At the same time, Fergus continues to enjoy his lack of responsibilities, preferring to keep his position in the Red Branch. Thanks to this, Fergus accepts his nephew as king and returns to training young warriors. Among them is a boy, Sitanta, who he takes on as a student, bearing witness as the boy earns his new name, Cuchulainn. As a warrior, Fergus has a big heart that shrugs off trivial annoyances and knows no fear. He does not get jealous, and instead offers sincere generosity even to his most formidable opponents. However, he simply cannot permit betrayal. No matter who, he refuses to forgive those who betray their allies and vows to make due on his promises. This integrity serves to drastically alter his fate. While attending a feast, Crohor hears a scream from inside the womb of his chieftain's wife. She is soon to give birth to a daughter, Deirdre. Haunted by Deirdre's prenatal scream, Crohor has his chief druid divine her future. It is then prophesied that Deirdre will grow up to be the fairest woman in all of Ireland, but will bring tragedy to Ulster should she marry a king. Crohor is told that, if this happens, Ulster's best warriors, including Fergus, will go into exile. While his council recommends killing the child, Crohor instead declares his intent to marry her when she is of age. Rather than caring for his kingdom, he succumbs to his sexual urges, tempted by his vision of her developed body in the future. Naturally, however, as Deirdre grows, she realizes she does not want to marry a man old enough to be her father, instead dreaming of a dark-haired, white-skinned youth. Deirdre's nurse suggests her dream man might just be Noisha, another of the Red Branch's knights, and Cuchulainn's cousin. In defiance of Crohor, Deirdre places a gash upon Noisha, forcing him to fall in love and flee the kingdom with her. Crohor's warriors chase the two of them, forcing them into hiding. In time, Ulster's kinsmen implore that Crohor make peace with them and allow them to come home. A deal is made. Noisha agrees to return with his wife Deirdre, so long as he is safely accompanied by Fergus and other knights. Deirdre, however, suspects Crohor is deceiving them, but Noisha ignores her warning. Fergus begins to escort the couple, but is distracted by a fellow chieftain who invites him to a feast. Thanks to the influence of a gesh, Fergus is unable to refuse. Thus, Noisha continues without him, instead protected by Fergus's son, Fiaha. Sure enough, Crohor proves his treachery by having an assassin run a spear through Noisha's back. Fiaha tries to save him, protecting his friend with his own body, only to also be slain in the conflict. Bound and captive, Deirdre is brought to Crohor through cruel, deceptive means. When word of this reaches Fergus and his allies, they launch an attack on Crohor's home. Together, they slay much of Crohor's family and set the building ablaze. Distraught by betrayal and the death of his son, Fergus and some 3,000 followers leave Ulster in exile, where they join up with Ulster's enemy, Connacht. Clearly, the prophecy had been fulfilled. In short time, Fergus becomes the most trusted military advisor to Maeve, Queen of Connacht, and they become passionate lovers, even though Maeve is already married to Connacht's king, Ailill. It is said that, normally, it takes 7 women in a single night to satisfy Fergus's lust. Only Maeve and one other woman prove to be an exception to the rule. That other woman is Fliash, a Celtic goddess of cattle and fertility. As a soldier for Connacht, Fergus has affairs with both of these outstanding women, even going so far as to take Fliash as his wife. While at Maeve's side, Fergus, out of hatred for Crohor, spurs the Queen into declaring war on Ulster. This leads to the cycle's greatest war, known as the Cattle Raid of Cooley. In addition to his impressive sword skills, forged from a lifetime of tireless training, Fergus derives great strength in battle from his noble phantasm, Caladbolg, the Rainbow Sword. It is a spiral blade with attacks that can destroy not only his enemies, but the entire landscape of the battlefield by plunging the blade into the earth like a drill. This blade is known to be the prototype of various holy swords, including Excalibur Galatine. During the war's decisive battle, Fergus manages to corner Crohor, the man who betrayed him, but is unable to unleash his full vengeful might because of the presence of Cuchulainn, who he swore not to engage in combat. Unfortunately, this costs Fergus his chance to take revenge upon Ulster's king. Enraged by his missed opportunity, Fergus uses Caladbolg to harm his surroundings, blasting the tops clean off 3 nearby hills. In an honorable agreement between former pupils, Cuchulainn allows Fergus to place a geis upon him, such that, if they meet again on the battlefield, Fergus will achieve victory almost unconditionally, making Caladbolg Cuchulainn's greatest threat. That said, this rematch of theirs never comes to pass. Ultimately, Queen Maeve felt great humiliation as a result of the war and begins scheming her revenge against Cuchulainn. When planning her next assault, she decides to keep Fergus away from the battlefield, deeming him a nuisance. Unable to participate, Fergus is left behind in Connacht. Here, Alil's jealousy for making love to his wife springs forth. The King of Connacht assassinates Fergus over the affair. Despite this, Fergus remains humble, accepting his death, while wishing to one day obtain the Holy Grail, so that he can bed with Fliash and Maeve together in a lustful threesome. Regardless, he is most certainly remembered as a hero. Even though his legend is often overshadowed by Cuchulainn's, he is nonetheless recorded into the Throne of Heroes. In the modern era, the Chaldea Security Organization struggles to prevent the incineration of humanity by resolving various singularities opened up throughout history. One such singularity is centered around the United States of America, though it seems to be occupied by a massive army of Celtic warriors led by Queen Maeve. Sure enough, as in life, Fergus can be found by her side, fighting for her armies. Chaldea's master, Ritsuka Fujimaru, first encounters Fergus as an enemy intent on killing Nero. The master and their servants manage to outmatch Fergus in combat, and he humbly accepts defeat, offering them advice on where to head next before disappearing. Thereafter, Fergus is summoned as a servant, this time under Ritsuka, joining the effort to stop Getia. That said, rather than a traditional master-servant contract, Fergus treats Ritsuka as a fellow comrade in arms. He trusts his master, but does not consider himself subservient in any way. Thus, Ritsuka tends to think of him as a reliable uncle. Regardless, he participates by Ritsuka's side in the final battle against Getia and the demon god pillars. In the aftermath of their struggle, several demon gods manage to escape and embed themselves in history, creating new pseudo-singularities that Chaldea must clean up. At the core of one of them is Scheherazade, a prominent character in the 1001 Nights. She fears death and hates being a part of the Throne of Heroes, which summons her time and again to suffer more and more. Thus, she plans to disrupt the Throne of Heroes by constructing a fictional underground world, Agartha, and filling it with various stories with her noble phantasm. Seeking to cause chaos in the female-dominated world, she summons Fergus, but makes a fatal mistake. She expects Fergus to have an even stronger libido in his youth than at his prime, so she forcibly summons him as a child. To her miscalculation, this Fergus is earnestly in the midst of his training, well aware of his line to the throne of Ulster. Furthermore, he won't so much as consider fighting against another woman, no matter how cruel and inhumane. When Ritsuka arrives to resolve the singularity, They recruit Fergus. But because of his ideals, the most he can do is keep Ritsuka safe on defense, rather than engaging in deadly combat against the likes of female pirates, torturers, and Amazon warriors. As they visit Agartha's various cities, Fergus contemplates what it means to be king, and how he should rule. Inconveniently, he lacks memories of his future self. That is, until Scheherazade moves onto the final step of her plan, the rise and fall of Lapta, the land of the sky. Here, Fergus begins to regain the memories of his older self and preaches to Scheherazade that if one lives simply by fearing death, they cannot focus on truly living. He insists that, when they return to Chaldea, she come to his bed and experience his love firsthand. As Lapta falls to the earth, ready to disrupt human history, Fergus channels all of his strength into his knife, which transforms into a fully formed version of Khalidbolg. This blade, Khalidbolg, the ultimate rainbow sword, drills deep into Lapta's surface, stirring a torrential poison that tears the land asunder. With his sacrifice, the singularity is able to dissipate, and, just as promised, Scheherazade makes her way to Chaldea as one of Ritsuka's servants. That said, Fergus, in all of his lustful glory, spends the majority of his time performing squats in the hallway to showcase his muscles, in hopes of attracting any of Chaldea's lovely ladies to his bedchamber. Thanks to this, Scheherazade wants nothing to do with him, and sneaks about the facility in secret. The two aspects of Fergus, his prowess as a warrior and his blatant womanizing, prove inseparable to this servant who strives to protect the human order. Thanks for watching. If you enjoy this channel, help me beat the algorithm by liking, commenting, and sharing the video, subscribing to OtakuDaiKun, and most of all, smashing that notification bell as if it were your waifu. That way you'll never miss out on all of my anime content, lore videos, live streams, and Holy Waifu Wars polls. My vids are struggling to get featured, so that bell is absolutely critical. If you want to support me directly, check out my Patreon, or consider donating via Super Chat. And as always, celebrate your fandom.